Hi, everyone, and welcome back after lunchtime. Our first session in English now. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Mateusz and Marcin from INT4. They're going to present Eliminate SAP S4HANA project delays with service virtualization and SAP EDI testing. We saw that already in the morning sessions. Testing is imperative, in particular for S4HANA migrations, and INT4 really has an excellent tool suite here, and I'm very happy to have you two guys here. But enough of talking from my side. The stage is yours. Looking forward to a presentation now.
Hello, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, depending, right? What was your time zone? Yeah, I think we are very excited to be able to share some words on how we are trying to eliminate SAP S4HANA delays with the service virtualization for the EDI interface processes. Marcin, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Thank you. Marcin Gałczyński. I'm the head of product in INT4, responsible for our virtualization and testing solution. And it's a pleasure to have Mateusz with me, who's one of the key experts in terms of the product, and of course in terms of supporting our customers in this type of projects. So as a company, as we state here, we strive to bring a complete SAP testing landscape automation and help ensure business continuity. And those 60 seconds come down to a demo that we will do towards the end when we can actually test an end-to-end process in 1 minute. So a kind of a teaser so that you stay with us throughout the whole session. And we do have actually a scriptless API testing tool that with virtualization and API testing feature really allows to reduce the risks and reduce the delays that are common to, I think, in general, SAP projects, not only S4HANA projects, but right now, I think, particularly for S4HANA projects that the companies might have. Yeah, so the big question to you as a group is, who said that SAP projects are simple and straightforward?
I have no idea who said that, but definitely if such person knows how to make SAP projects easy, then there should be another webinar about that.
Oh yes,
yes, agree.
we need that first. So of course, going forward, Mateusz, there is no such thing. I mean, nobody probably said anything like that. I mean, we all know about escalations, delays, budget issues, customer satisfaction eventually, and dependency on others, which is something that we try to address here at least partially. We wouldn't be able to tell about all of the problems that we encounter on SAP projects and the challenges we have to deal with, and we will focus about just one. Next, please. And this is regarding the complexity of let's say modern business environment. So imagine a typical business scenario, which in the middle we have the company A, which is serving their customers. Let's imagine it's an FMCG company. They of course do have their customers, that Metro Group, for example, that would be doing the purchasing from them and expecting invoices and expecting shipment notifications, and of course there are logistical partners. This company C here on the right hand side handles deliveries, transfers orders, and deliver the goods finally to the customer. And in a day-to-day business operation, we see people everywhere there. Yeah? So there are people in both of those companies. But during a project situation, like in this slide, the situation is a little bit different. So there is a group of people working on the system, working on the project, building, configuring, setting it up, loading data, testing. But actually, in terms of working with the companies B and C, the situation is no longer that easy. I mean, there's probably some ways around it. I know about companies that can actually do testing with you and for you for a fee, for example. But this starts to be a critical resource limitation when the team wants to actually test something, when the team wants to validate anything that would be relating to the communication with external parties or even with internal systems. they would be waiting because the availability on the company B and company C for the systems is limited.
And if I may add something here, right? So you mentioned that we need to wait for some other people from even external, let's say external companies, right? So let's say the 3PL partner or the EDI partner or the message broker, for instance, right? But what we have seen in the past project is that even within the single company, each team has its own priority schedule, day-to-day operations that they need to handle in parallel to the S/4HANA project, right? So it's even quite complex to really get everyone involved in exactly the same time. Yeah. So that's very so something that is, I would say, the biggest dependency in terms of the EDI interfaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agree. Just one small side note here. Martin, your microphone comes in through a bit bumpy. I'm not sure if you can maybe switch to another one, or you're on the right external one, or just speak a little bit closer to the microphone. That should maybe enhance it. Matthias, you're crystal clear with the headset. Just a minor side note.
Okay, is this better now?
Yes, way better.
Okay. Thank you for the update. Yes, and this is where we come with the idea of service virtualization and API test automation, which actually enables you to disconnect from those external dependencies, which are either in the systems that you have in your organization or in the companies, and allows the SAP team to focus on their work without having to wait on others. But I think waiting is not the only problem, Mateusz. If we go to the next slide, there is something else, and specifically in terms of the systems that you would have. For each of these companies or your internal systems, there is more questions. There's the question of master data. There's the question of the hardware platform that you have to rent or purchase. There's a question of the support that you need to have for that platform, so technically, but also people to use that platform. And that actually makes the testing a little bit more complicated to prepare. And that gap that we see here is that without this data, without those systems, the actual testing is difficult. Yeah, and because SAP system is, as we see, I think we probably see it all in your companies, is actually very much interconnected with other systems and businesses. If you want to do proper testing of SAP, like full end-to-end testing, you would actually have to go like one of the customers of our consulting partner, where they said, hey, we have to set up 34 external applications in the SAP environment. A little bit crazy, 34 applications, systems, people to do it, master data, external partners, external companies that we have to pay. That's a lot. And then the other problem with integration that is maybe not so much resource related, but it takes a lot of time, is the fact that the integration in the way it's executed is actually happening somewhere in the background. Yes, so if you have your SAP system that you're testing, integration platform, SAP CI or PO or TIPCO or whichever it goes, and then there is the system that you're integrating with. So to take one process step, sometimes it will take actions that happen in 3 different systems, in 3 different, let's say, computer programs, will do something to get your message from one software pack to another. And that means that if something doesn't go right there, you actually have 3 places to check to understand what's going on, and it's not as simple as clicking something in the user interface and seeing yes it works, no it doesn't. It actually happens behind the scenes, and it takes skills and efforts to understand issues, which means that the testing of the integration itself takes a lot of time, especially if you need to go through fixing items. And right now, I pass on to Mateusz, who will get from my general introduction to this problem to a specific example from one of our customers who uses actually INT4 for S/4HANA Greenfield project. Mateusz, over to you.
Yep. So basically, if you think of S/4HANA projects, right, regardless of the type of the conversion, whether this is a blue field, brownfield, or the green field, right, there are definitely a lot of challenges. But if we focus specifically on the S/4HANA and on the EDI interfaces and EDI processes, right, I think that you can agree that this dependency on the source systems, right, on all those message brokers, on all those EDI partners, 3PL connections, right? This is something that is the most significant one, because I believe you can agree that we cannot think of testing the EDI processes without such integration, right? And even if you are doing something like the S/4HANA migration, we should test the let's say ECC and S/4HANA box, right? But without those external messages from all those source systems, we actually cannot guarantee that it's done in a proper way. And something that Marcin already mentioned, that on this slide where you could see a lot of people that actually need to do some work, right? The biggest pain here is that whenever you want to test something, even such simple process like the EDI sales order posting on the S/4HANA site, right? In order to test it correctly, you need to make sure that at the same time when you want to test something, all those different teams are in more or less the same time available as you want to test, because otherwise you are waiting for some actions, hours and sometimes even days, right? So that's, I would say, one angle, right? If we look from a little bit different perspective, right? If we are testing something without massively testing, we cannot guarantee that what we even are doing in S4, right, system, that we are testing all the different variations, or that we really test even the sales order processing for every single partner. And if you think of the EDI processes, right, usually single company has a lot of partners that are somehow connected, right? So it's really hard to do this. So if you want to test something, of course you can do this on some dummy data, trying to post the IDOC via WE19, right? Of course we can test some let's say some really small changes like that. But if you would like to ensure that what you are testing is in sync with what those source systems are sending in the productive environments, then you need somehow a solution, right, to make it happen. So I would like to show you how we are trying to solve this with the service virtualization. And here I would like to show you very simple steps that actually probably all of you are doing on a daily basis, right? Because if we want to test the EDI flow without the service virtualization, every single time when we need to check something, right, we need to engage someone from either different team within the same organization, or we need to ask someone from the external system, right? So if you think of the simple scenario where we want to test the sales order posting, then testing the payment for that sales order, and then creating the outbound delivery and inbound delivery confirmation, right? Without the service virtualization, when you ask the order management team to create such specific order with, let's say, some specific data for the specific materials even, right? You ask them and you wait. Then once you wait when the message is within your PO system or CPI system, and then you wait to get the final IDOC in the system that actually posts the sales order. And if you want to test the message, the sales order that was already paid, you need to again ask for a separate message, right? In addition to this, some of the customers, the EDI customers, right, they have the order responses that are being sent back once the sales order is being posted, right? So in this case, of course, I can maybe handle that internally, because I can ask the PO technical team to check that sales order response. But anyway, that's additional step where I need the input from someone else, right? And if we will go further, again, we have to create the outbound delivery for that sales order, and then again make sure that the message in the PIPO was sent out, and at the latest stage, we just need to ask for additional time for this delivery confirmation, and then we need to check whether the message is really arriving to our system. And with service virtualization, actually, you can see that without service virtualization, we had to engage 3 different teams, right? And of course, I think you can agree that sometimes what has to be done takes like 30 minutes maybe, but actually the waiting time that we need to spend on some actions or responses, that actually something that delays the project the most. So with service virtualization, right, we can, based on the productive messages that we somehow created, we will go to this step later, we can resend the sales order that we actually want, depending on the scenario. Then with IFTT, once we virtualize this first message, we can even validate whether the order response was created automatically. If we want to test the payment, again, we can trigger the message as if that message would come from the order management testing, right? So you can see that all of those steps where we need someone engaged from the different teams, we can replace that basically by automating the messages with the service virtualization. And I think it will be more clear in a minute when I will describe exactly how we are doing it with IFTT. Because I think I need to also bring the analogy that that recently one of our colleagues, Marcin, mentioned about the Tesla, and about the fact that if you think about the car industry, right, more and more companies are actually, they are trying to have the better and better assistance if it comes to driving, if it comes to making sure that you can lower the risk, right? So why don't we take the same approach for SAP projects, and why don't we use the tools that are actually available in the market to automate some of the processes, right? And one of such tools is, of course, IFTT. So now I would like to show you what exactly we are doing in terms of the virtualization, right? So maybe we can stick to this example with the incoming sales order, right? So in the projects like S4HANA, of course, we need all those external systems, EDI partners, and so on and so forth to test. But we don't need to test those external systems itself, because actually the change that we are doing is within those blue boxes. So we are changing just SAP environment, right? So we can actually virtualize all the messages that those external systems are sending, because in most cases we already have them either in some external applications, legacy system, PO, CPI, right? So we have all those input messages that they are sending. And then, of course, let's say if we will stick to this EDFACT sales order example, right? The processing, the routing is happening on the middleware side. So out of the logic in the middleware, we have the output message that at the end creates, for instance, the IDOC on the new S4 system, right? And here, what is also what can also be tested is basically the whole interface ABAP layer, right? So interface layer. So if you think of ABAP enhancement, I don't know, if you have AEF, that's also something that can be tested, the whole logic there, right? and at the end also the SAP customizing, because based on that, the final business document, which in our case is the sales order, is being created. Marcin, would you like to add maybe something here while I will be showing the first demo, how exactly and what exactly is the test case in IFTT?
No, thank you, Mateusz. I think maybe just start with introducing the audience a little bit to our tool, because I think some people might be seeing IFTT for the first time. And one, as I'm already speaking, let me just maybe mention that our tool is tailored built for SAP implementations, and specifically we deliver it as an ABAP add-on. So that's what you see here is the actual SAP GUI, and so this is just well, from SAP GUI perspective, that's just another transaction that you can run, and then you can see here the cockpit with the folders, with the scenarios. And of course, Mateusz will show test cases in a moment. So that's the main operational center, the cockpit of our tool.
Yeah, and what you actually highlighted, that we are tailored to SAP, that's very important, because sometimes our customers in the very early stages of the conversation, they think, okay, then I would need additional server to really virtualize something, right? And it's not the case, because actually here you can see that IFTT is installed on the solution manager from where we have all the connections to different systems that we are testing. So the ECC system, S4 system, and all the middlewares, right? So the very first thing that I need to describe is the folder structure that Marcin mentioned. So it's just the representation of the way how you organize everything, right? So some customers have very different variations of let's say how they create it, but at the end it just has to serve you to get organized, right? So here, for instance, you can see that I have some specific flows for the OTC. So for instance, I have a promotion orders process for a specific country, and when I click on a specific folder in the bottom menu, you can actually see all the test cases that belongs to this folder, right? So this is the way how it works. But now I would like to jump to the specific test case to actually show you what the test case is, right? So I mentioned that basically we can use the productive messages that you already have in your systems to trigger them either to the development or quality system on your new S4HANA box, right? So if I will click on a single test case and I will preview the content of that test case, yeah, you can see that this is just the standard EDIFACT order, right, that we received from one of our customers, right? So this one is actually saved from the test system, but some of the customers actually use test systems or productive boxes as the reference data that they actually save, and then they use it whenever it's needed, right? So I can show you, I can highlight several test cases, and now, for instance, those messages taken from the test system, I can even execute on the development system, right? So even if you introduce some changes in the S4HANA project, right? And as soon as you maybe adapt the enhancement in the sales order processing, because just to be in sync with the S4 code guidelines, right? Once you do this, you can just simulate the messages. So you can just select specific messages, and once you click execute button, now IFTT actually virtualizes the sender, so all those EDI partners, and it actually sends those messages to the PO system, right? So you can see actually that the test cases were sent to the PO system, and that actually all of them passed. So if I will go even to the details, right, you can see that this is very important, that the original purchase order numbers that were actually sent within this single EDI document, right, are on the left hand side, and on the right hand side you can actually see that those purchase order numbers, they are different, because at the time we simulated that the external system sends them, we actually changed the number, because of course we want to post the sales order with the unique value. Yeah, and down below you can see actually the separate sales orders that that were created by this one input message that actually contained 3 separate sales orders. Yeah, so it's as simple as that. And maybe what is important while we are describing the scenarios, right, it's very important to prepare the data properly, right? So if you have the S/4HANA migration project, then most of the systems are already live. So actually you can take the messages that your EDI customers exchange with your current ECC, and you can save them as a test cases, right? So sometimes as those reference data that you will be virtualizing, those can be the PO messages, the CPI messages, or if you have the greenfield implementation, sometimes those are messages from totally external systems, and you just need to agree on the way how you will extract them in IFTT, right? So that's the first step, and the second step is let's say making sure that the way how you are saving test cases in IFTT, that they have a proper structure, so that you know how to use them, and that you actually describe them in a proper way. For instance, at my current customer, right, they have some specific variables, and based on those variables, IFTT automatically saves test cases with a specific description, and this description is actually built based on the content of the messages that EDI partner sends, right? So once you do this properly, then you can really use it whenever it's needed. And then the last step is that you really once you have this, you should really expose your test repository as broad as you can, because then the same test cases can be used by different teams. I think the last thing that I would like to show you, right, how to actually get those productive messages. Yeah.
Just one thing, because I when I hear this about messages from production, and I know what we hear from our customers about the data privacy and the security, and how does it go hand in hand with sharing this and making it accessible for everybody to test? GDPR comes to your mind, of course.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing this topic, because that's something that is, I would say, the very first sentence or question when I described that, okay, we can use the productive data, right? So in IFTT, at the time you execute those test cases, so at the time you virtualize all those messages, you can actually apply some scrambling rules, and you can actually change those values, right? So it's totally something that you can customize, and depends on the interface, of course, depends on the customer, right? But that's thank you, Marcin, for bringing that up. So as I said, right, you can for the simplification, let's say that I'm using the test system as my reference data on the demo purposes. But what I can do, I can just manually create test cases. But of course, this is not something that I would like to show you, because if we are doing the S4 migration, and one of my current customers for the EDI processes, they actually have the testing library of the last 3 months of data. So of course, when you think of the persistence in the PO CPI, of course, the messages disappear after several days, right? And in order to make sure that you can actually have different kind of scenarios, once we save test case in IFTT, it's available as long as this test case is available in the solution manager. So here I'm just showing you the robot crawler that will find messages for the specific interface, right? So if I will just quickly show you that, under this configuration, you can see that I have exactly the same interface, so the generic interface, but this generic interface is actually used by different EDI partners, right? So now I will add some custom dates maybe here, and I would like to create automatically the messages for those interfaces, and I would like to create them in a separate folders, right? So let me just execute it. And once I click the button, of course, usually it's working in the background on a daily basis, right? You will see that IFTT just created 20 messages. And if I will go to the IFTT, right, and I will go to the specific folder that actually has those test cases, you will see that here we have the folder that I set up, right? And once I refresh, you will see that I have those additional 20 messages for EDI partner A and EDI partner B, right? So that's the reason, that's the way how the test cases can be quite easily created on a daily basis to ensure that you can really test different kind of scenarios. Having that said, I think we can actually show maybe a different way how we can virtualize and how we can use SVT for really the whole processes, Marcin. So can you maybe shed some light on that?
Yes, please. So if we could switch to presenting right now, so I can take it on. And thank you, Mateusz, for bringing the slides. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Mm-hmm.
You should see some nice islands. Yes.
Yes, some really nice sea.
Yes. So that was just a break. Now back to the reality. We do have two demos for you today, which we want to show to let's say build a case around how actually automated testing can work end to end for complex cases that can happen, that are kind of a common during the business execution and that usually need to be tested. The first one we have is a kind of a simple response scenario. So in the business process, there is a purchase order being created, and the process works like that the purchase order is generating a message, triggering a message out to the vendor. The vendor would then pick up this message, process it, and send back the confirmation of the delivery. And that document should reach back to your SAP system and then create a follow-up as a delivery document, and also update the purchase order itself with the shipment confirmations. So doing this without virtualization would mean that first you would have to check whether even the request went out to the vendor and the document is correct. Then you would need to mock up a response to that and send it back via the integration platform to see if it gets converted to the right IDOC, the document type that SAP will then process into the delivery document. With IFTT, we can actually build it in a way that without any additional software, based on the capabilities of SAP and based on the capabilities of the integration platforms that we operate with, we can actually find such a message that was sent to that hypothetical test vendor, generate a response automatically via mapping, and then send that response back to SAP through the integration platform. And let me start the demo here. Oh, okay. So let me start. I hope you see the familiar SAP GUI screen right now. That's just the quartz black color setup.
It's much more fancy than the one I showed.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. And here I'm actually doing that first step. So somehow the purchase order would appear. It could be appearing manually. It could be appearing because of an MRP run or different automation that you might have in your system. And that's it. You know, a simple one-line order. We could have more lines as well. That's not a problem. And we see that there is no confirmation. And what I have here is my selection of those test cases that we have. And for virtualization specifically, we have defined first the mapping that maps the order to the dispatch notification. And we have a set of items here, which is the listener, which will find the message that we want. And then there's the responder, which will use the mapping. And we have also PI or CPI mappings here available. I'll go with the XSLT because I'm not sure whether our PI is currently operational. Those two test cases will actually do that job of reacting to that sales order. So if I save it, I get a purchase order created and the document will be generated. So the number is 278. Okay, and then let me run those two steps here. So what happens is first the listener is looking for the message to arrive on the platform, and then in the next step the responder will generate the output.
Martin, does it mean that you have to always click the execute button once you create this PO number, or it can be somehow automated also?
Unfortunately, we were not lucky. Not sure what happened. I'm doing this here with executing those test cases deliberately because we do have a demo here and we want to show how that works. But on the other hand, we can also set it up to run in the background. So we can select specific test cases, schedule them to run like every 2 or 3 minutes, and then the operation would be kind of a seamless for the user. So I was doing this demo yesterday on the same system, and I believe I had much more luck with it. So let me maybe. I don't want to resolve this problem now, but I have my test results from previous days, which I can call back. So I just want to show you how that looks when the run is successful. So this is a live demo. Those things happen. Yes, so that's the one from yesterday. So this is how it looks when it works. The listener will find a message with a specific number. So let me copy that to show the document. And then the responder will generate the message, and will not only generate the message, but will also actually validate the message that will be processed via PI. So this virtualization is not only for the SAP itself, but it actually virtualizes the behavior of the vendor. So it will find the message that would come out of the PO and would be sent to the vendor, and will send the message back pretending to be that vendor, all through the PO solution. And it also validates if the mapping in PO generates the proper output based on historical data. That's in this validation here. You see the documents are basically the same, with exception of some numbers where we said, hey, this is okay. It's actually the order number can be actually different in this message here, but the data should be the same.
So actually, if I'm the EDI functional consultant, I can just create a PO and then wait like 2 minutes or 3 minutes for the background job, and then I can have my delivery, right, created already.
Yes, and this is the document from the demo from 2 days ago, and this is how it looks. So this response, the fact that this delivery is created, was actually generated through the virtualization engine. And I want to highlight one more thing, which is quite smart in this solution, because the configuration of such a virtualization can be done via mapping of messages. This mapping of messages can be also done using actually the integration platform. So in our demo, you might have noticed that for virtualization, I do have several mappings here, and I have several responders. And those responders could either use like XSLT transformation, or we could actually build that mapping on PI or CPI. And that gives you a bit more of possibilities, because when we do it, we could imagine that, let's say, we could put something like in the header text. Yeah, because the header text might be, I don't know, I would say 20 here. And the header text is also exported with that message. So the mapping can take into consideration that value. You can add some programming into your mapping. You can configure that quite easily. And then the response would not be directly confirming this specific amount, but as in our demo, it actually confirms half of the amount. And we can build it in a different way. We can drive it to header text. So you can imagine that if you want to test a scenario that is only a partial delivery, then you could type in header text 20%, and that could be handled by the virtualization mapping to actually respond just with 20% of confirmation. For example, those options here are just limited by the programming time and creativity. But even in such a basic scenario, we can change this response and make it to our expectations, so that you can have different test scenarios validated using the same virtualization configuration. And this question sometimes comes. So setting up this type of virtualization with the mapping would be around 2-3 man days to set something up like this. Yeah, and you do it just once, and then everybody working on testing POs now and in the future would actually be able to map this. And I think that the good part of this virtualization, based on the capabilities of the integration engine, that we are using the fact that PO or CPI is processing those messages, that also means that you don't have to change any configuration. You don't need to change any endpoints in your system and so on to point to something, because IFTT works directly on the level of the integration layer and interacts with it. So it takes the messages from there and puts it back in the right place. So I'm a little bit stressed now, because the next demo is even more complex, and since the first one didn't work well for us, I'm quite excited now. But let's see how things go. Do we have time and time for questions? How does it look from that perspective?
Of course, no. Please continue. We have plenty of time. The next slot is then 1:15 with a few minutes of break in between. So please continue.
Okay, thank you. So the other scenario that we have is taking account of the UI testing features as well. So the virtualization scenario that I showed you is just a simple response. But we also are able, with virtualization, to test complete processes end to end. And the process that we have on a demo here is like a standard sales order processing. So a customer sends you a purchase order via EDI, it creates a sales order in SAP, and then somebody would need to do the picking in the warehouse, and then you would get a shipment notification sent out to the customer, and then you can do your billing run, and then the invoice would go out to the customer. So you have 3 documents at least in the system with sales order, delivery, and invoice. You have 3 EDI messages, the purchase order, which is inbound to you, and then you send out the shipment notification and the invoice. And all of this can be tested with including the validation of the messages that will go out from IFTT in a single run. To be able to do that, we actually have to link up with a UI testing technology. IFTT itself does not provide UI testing, so you cannot record screens and so on. But we work very well with the tools that allow this. In our demo, we use ECAT. ECAT is kind of, I think, already quite mature, let's say, SAP's technology for testing the SAP GUI applications, and it's actually available within any SAP system, so that's the easiest win. But we can also work with TTA, we can also work with Worksoft, we can work with UiPath. We enabled integration with those products as well. So any kind of UI integration, almost any kind of UI integration can be used. And in this process, we will actually demo how IFTT simulates the vendor by sending the purchase order and then validating the subsequent documents. And it is using ECAT to process the delivery and the billing. Okay. So let me navigate to the right demo scenario here. Yeah, so in this scenario, I have those 6 test cases. First, we'll send the sales order and then second one is waiting for the sales order confirmation. So actually 4 EDI messages, sorry. And then there's the delivery creation done via ECAT with validation of the shipping notification document, and then there's the invoice creation via ECAT again with validation of the invoice that comes out on IFTT. Okay, so please keep your fingers crossed, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so already the sales order was processed, and this is what you're seeing right now. My hands are here. This is the ECAT script that is executing the sales order processing. It is running in the foreground, so it's a little bit more lively as a demo. But in a normal scenario, ECAT scripts can be running completely in the background. So this whole test, if this ECAT script would be configured to run in the background, this whole test could be actually executed remotely without any user interface. So you could actually script IFTT to run this test case or run it even in the background. And then the ECAT script would also work without any need for clicking. You can also see here that it looks like it's putting in some empty values. It's actually true because this ECAT script was written to be universal. So if there's more line items, it will also behave correctly. Yes, so this ends. Then control goes back to IFTT, and IFTT will now process the other steps of the script. Okay, now the invoice processing is happening. And then now IFTT is collecting result, which means it's pending on the messages to finally reach BI. Okay, so the test executed. So first thing I'd like you to notice is that it took 1 minute and 25 seconds. And we had a run yesterday that took exactly 1 minute. So it can run even a little bit faster if the systems are not busy, which is, again, sending an EDI order, creating a sales order is being created, validating the confirmation, creating the delivery, validating the delivery shipping notification, creating the invoice, validating the invoice. It all happened in 1 minute, 25 seconds. And let me show you how that works. Sales order is very similar to what Mateusz showed, so I'll skip that one. But let's look at the sales order confirmation. So first of all, you can see that this variable purchase order was updated. So the current value was taken from the sales order that we already created in the system. And then we have IFTT validating the actual EDI message that is sent out. So SAP would send an IDOC. This IDOC was processed by PO to an EDI edified message that you can see on the screen, and IFTT validates that. And again, you can see that there are differences which are being highlighted in yellow, and that's because we know, okay, the date and time will be different, the sequence number will be different. So we can configure this to be ignored as or just a warning. Dates are different and so on, but the whole rest of the document is actually compared line by line, and it is obviously correct. And here, even because those differences are marked as warnings, despite that they are yellow, the whole test case step is actually passed for this document. Yeah? And then again, what happens next is the delivery creation, and there's the invoice creation, which are done via ECAT. So here there is just an update. Hey, there's an ECAT log that you can check, and there is the specific document number that was created in this ECAT run. So IFTT will check from ECAT what was the new delivery number, so that it can use further on in the invoice creation ECAT, where it also will capture the final invoice number that was generated. But there is one more thing. Let me show you this ASN validation. This will actually be validating an XML message in this case. So our dispatch advice is again correct. IFTT can compare text files, XMLs, JSON files as per the structure. So that's kind of a very universal from this perspective. And then the other part that I want to highlight is the database validation. So when we create the sales order, we're not only making sure that it got created, but we are also validating that the data that actually landed in the database is correct. And then again, this is based on the reference document that we used to create the original test case from. And then it will show us, okay, what is the exact data in the database for the reference document? and in the solid black for the newly created document. And again, differences are highlighted in yellow because they are configured warnings. If there would be like a solid difference, that would be highlighted in red, and that would mean an error. This value should be different. So then IFTT would also highlight that during the comparison. And here we are actually not scrambling data, as Mateusz explained before for GDPR, but we have the feature also for masking data. Masking means that I want to compare, in this case I want to compare the net value, but I don't want to show it. So I can configure it so that it's hidden with your masking configuration. That concludes my demo, actually. Mateusz, you want to add anything?
Yeah, just one last thing, because what is even last week, right? I had a case where my customer really started working within the SAT tool, and what was amazing, right? That the people who executed the test cases at the very first glance, they could see where exactly the issue is, right? So they could see whether the issue is on the PO side, because if they could see some difference in the values, right, they already knew that they don't need to check the enhancement that they edited on the ABAP layer, but they can change something, or they should change something within the PO mapping that they also touched at the time where the S4HANA migration was done, right? So that's actually amazing, because that saves a lot of time, even with the troubleshooting what's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Did we lose Martin? As far as I can see here.
No, I'm still here. I'm still with you. Just my camera went off.
So sorry. No, then all good.
No worries.
Yeah, so now I think that we have still some time for the Q&A, right? So
yes, let me have a look at the questions. Here is one question. Is the scenario limited to SDMM, or can you consider other scenarios in SAP too? For instance, quality management processes.
So I would say if the process is connected with the interface messages, then we can test it. Of course, in terms of the sometimes it's very straightforward, right? Because in order to post the sales order, we just need the message from the external system. And sometimes, if you want to test the way how the outbound delivery is behaving, right, then you need all those prerequisite documents. So then you need to consider building a flows, right, as Martin shown. So it's possible, but of course, depending on the scenario, it requires different steps that have to be done.
I also wanted to add that IFTT is completely agnostic to the data and the tables you want to test. So all of this, what you've seen, that we're actually checking for sales orders and so on, we're doing that for the demo purpose, because those are familiar things to most people working with SAP. But if you would have your additional tables, fields, even if you build your own IDOC types and your own documents in SAP, we could also validate those as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was the question I saw here. Yeah, me personally, I like the end-to-end testing, in particular the virtualization you do there very much. The processes we see oftentimes involve testing, and one of the main issues is that in particular the external business partner is oftentimes not even willing to test with you. In particular in the automotive industry, for instance, there are almost never test systems available. I mean, some have, to be fair here, but then mocking the interface to the outside based on actual previous real-world data is super helpful. So yeah, you have a big fan with me here for your solution. That's for sure. Okay, we're a bit over time, but still, no, sorry, Martin, you wanted to say?
No, I just wanted. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, to be honest, at the very beginning when IFTT was invented, right, we invented that only for our purposes to deliver our projects faster, and only then we let's say spread the word about it, right? So that's actually resonates with what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, born out of a need and a real necessity. That's the best. That's the best approach for a product. Okay. Yeah. A big thank you to you two guys for joining us today and for giving these very profound demos. In case there are any further questions, we are happy to share your contact details. So in case anybody in the audience has further questions in regard to INT4, they can reach out to you. Your LinkedIn profiles are being mentioned on the sign up pages as well. The website is mentioned there. So all contact details should be there in case somebody has a question. Other than that, I'd say we close here. We have a short break now until 3:15, and we'll then continue with a brief outlook in regard to e-invoicing. Thanks a lot, guys, for being here. And yeah, see you and goodbye.
Yeah, thank you for the invite and for the attendance. Yep, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.